Hey class, good afternoon. No? So the objective for today's meeting is to tackle the stockholders' equity. Okay. So when we say stockholders' equity, sometimes called shareholders' equity, this is the residual interest in the assets of the corporation after deducting all its liabilities. That is the definition of that. No? Okay, tinatawag din naman siyang owner's equity, is all proprietorship, and the aggregate partners' capital and balances in a partnership. Okay. So there are several components class of your shareholders equity. So let's open sa Excel. So these are the components of your stockholders equity or shareholders equity. So isa-isayin natin. Okay. So let's start with the so-called share capital. Under share capital, these are the components, no? So, siguro isa-isahin natin sa mga major components. We have the share capital, we have the retained earnings, we have the other components of equity, other components of equity, and we have the treasury shares. Okay, so these are the major components of your stockholders' equity, share capital, your retained earnings, you have your other components of equity, and the treasury shares, no? Or the treasury stock. So under share capital, these are the subcomponents. So we have the preference share capital, preference share capital. We have the ordinary share capital. Okay, we have the subscribed share capital or the subscribed capital stock. Okay, then we have the subscription receivable, which is a contra equity or a deduction to your stockholders' equity. So this preference share capital is also called preferred stock. No? Ordinary share capital, ginagamit sa ibang problems, common stock. Subscribed share capital, ginagamit sa ibang problems, subscribed capital stock. We have the subscription receivable, which is a contra equity. Then we have the share dividends distributable, no? Share dividends distributable na tinatawag din sa ibang problems na stock dividends payable. We have the discount, no? We have the discount, which is a contra equity also. Discount, no? Discount on share capital. Okay? Discount on share capital. Yan, discount on share capital, which is also a contra equity account. Basta yun, no? So this is discount on share capital. Okay? Then we have the capital liquidated. Capital liquidated, which is also a contra equity account. And we have the share premium. Or dati tawag dyan, APIC or additional paid capital. Again, preference share capital, ordinary share capital, subscribed share capital. We have the subscription receivable, which is a contra equity account. Stock dividends distributable. We have this discount and share capital as a deduction. Then we have the capital liquidated and the share premium. And these are the subcomponents of your share capital. Okay, then we'll move to retained earnings. So this retained earnings, dalawa lang naman yan. The retained earnings, which is appropriated, and the retained earnings, which is unappropriated. Then we have the other components of equity. The other components of equity includes your revaluation surplus. You have your cumulative, unrealized, fair value, gains and losses on FVOCI. Pinag-usapan na natin yan. Cumulative, unrealized fair value gains and losses on FVOCI securities. No? Then we have the translation. No? Translation differences. Translation differences. It may be translation loss or it may be translation gain, no? Depending on the effect of the foreign exchange. And effective portion of cash flow hedge. No? Hedge. Okay. Then we have your treasury shares. No? Or your treasury shares or treasury stock, no? Which is also a contra to equity. Okay? So yan yung ano natin, the components of your stockholders equity. So we'll proceed, no? So ano naman yung mga transactions related to stockholders equity, no? So these are the following transactions that affect the accounting for your corporation equity, no? So corporation tayo focus stockholders equity. One is the authorization, no? Authorization, ano pa ba? Ito yung mga pag-uusapan natin later. Okay, these are the following transactions that affect the accounting for your corporation's equity. We have the authorization, ano pa? Subscription, issuance, acquisition, reissuance, okay, reissuance, and retirement, no? Retirement of shares. Okay? Ano pa? So, the second common items, no? Common transaction. The origination of other equity instruments. Other equity instruments. Examples are your share options. Ano pa? Detachable warrants. Detachable warrants. And other equity component of compound financial instruments. No? Other equity components of compound financial instruments. Okay? Next is yung sa part 2 na to. These are your distribution of dividends. Okay? Distribution to owners. Distribution to owners. And this is the distribution of your dividends. Then, so item 4, these are the transactions giving rise to other components of equity. No? So transactions that transaction giving rise to other components of equity. And we have the recapitalization and quasi-reorganization. Recapitalization and quasi-reorg. Okay, so these are the transactions that affect the accounting for a corporation's equity. Okay, so let's now proceed. Going back to the materials now. So this is now the accounting for your share capital. So an entity accounts for its share capital may use one of the following. One is the memorandum method and the so-called journal entry method. Okay, ito yun. Memorandum method tsaka yung journal entry method. Sa memorandum method, only memorandum is made for the authorization, is made for the authorized capitalization. Again, under memorandum method, only a memorandum is made for the authorized capitalization, and subsequent issuance of shares are credited to share capital. Ayan, no? Okay. Again, under memo method, only a memorandum is made for the authorized capitalization, while the subsequent issuances of shares are credited to the share capital. Okay? While under the journal entry method, the authorized capitalization is recorded by crediting authorized share capital, okay, and debiting your unissued share capital, okay? And the subsequent issuances are credited to unissued share capital, okay? So the difference between these two accounts represents the issued share capital, no? The difference between the two accounts represents the issued share capital. But what is the commonly used method in practice? The most commonly used method in practice is the memorandum method. Okay? Yan siya. So let's have some exercise here. Pero mabilis na lang ito kasi nandito na naman yung ating solution. So this is your authorized capitalization. And this is the related problem for that. Sabi niya, on January 1, X1, Air Company received authorization from SEC to issue share capital of 1 million divided into 10,000 shares with par value of 100. Okay? So this authorized share capital is recorded under these two following methods. We have the memo method, which is only a memorandum entry. Okay? So let's dissect the composition of this. When we say authorized share capital, authorized share capital, this represents the maximum authorized capitalization. When we say authorized capital class, this represents the maximum number of shares fixed in the entity's authorized articles of incorporation. That can be what? That can be subscribed and issued to shareholders. Again, your authorized share capital, this represents the number of shares fixed, maximum number of shares fixed in the entity's authorized articles of incorporation that can be subscribed and issued. Okay, pag sinabi mo naman ang unissued share capital, this represents the portion of the authorized share capital not yet issued. So that is still available for subscription or issuance. Okay? So in item 2, this represents the subscription. Sabi niya dyan, of the total authorized share capital, 25% was subscribed at par value and 25% of the total subscription was paid at subscription date. Okay? So kung papansinin mo dito, class, same ang entry made under both methods. You have your cash, subscription receivable, and your subscribed share capital. Okay? So let's dissect again. When we say subscription class, okay, this is a contract between yung bumibili ng shares, the purchaser of shares. Sino ba yun? Investors. This is a contract between the investor or the purchaser of shares and the issuer. Sino si issuer? Yung corporation. Okay? Again, when we say subscription, this is the contract between the investor and the corporation in which the investor or the purchaser promises to buy shares of the issuing company's stock. Okay? So that is a contract. When we say subscription, that is a contract between the investor and the corporation in which the investor promises to buy shares of the corporation. When we say subscription receivable, this represents the unpaid portion. This represents the unpaid portion of the subscription price. And this subscription receivable, again, is presented as a deduction from the related subscribe share capital, o sinasabi natin kanina nung nasa Excel tayo, this is a contra equity account. This is what? The unpaid portion of the subscription price, and the subscription receivable is presented as a deduction to your subscribed share capital, meaning this is a contra equity account. Pag sinabi naman nating subscribed share capital, okay, this represents the portion of the authorized share capital that is subscribed but not yet issued. Ingat ka dun, ha? Subscribed but not yet issued. Okay? So that is the concept related to this subscription. Pag dito naman sa collection of subscription receivable and issuance of shares on February, the company received full payment of 2,000 subscribed shares and issued the related share certificate. So meron ng issuance, okay? Meron ng issuance ng share dito, okay? So the subscription here in item C, okay, sabi niya dyan, 2,000 subscribed shares and issued the related certificate. Okay? So, the entry for this, since may collection, okay, this is 150,000. Paano nakuha yung 150,000? The subscription price is 2,000 times the par value of the shares, which is 100, no? So that is now your subscription price, no? So that is 200,000. So 2,000 times the par value of 100, that is 200,000. And the portion already paid. And the portion of already paid is 25%. So 25% of 200,000, that is 50,000. Therefore, the balance is only 150,000. So this is the balance collected here, okay? Amounting to 150,000. So these are now the related issuance of your share capital na ang ginagamit kapag memo method is share capital, while kapag journal entry method, unissued share capital. But notice again, this share capital. This share capital is the portion of the authorized share capital stock, no? Authorized share capital that is already issued. Okay? And a certificate is issued here, and that is what you call the share certificate. Okay? So this is a document that evidences the ownership of the share. Okay? So if you will dissect this under the memo method, no, share capital is credited and the issued share capital is the account credited under the journal entry method. No? So, ano pa ang pwedeng sabihin dito? Under the corporation code, no, the shares, no, and the share certificates are issued to subscribers only upon the full payment of the subscription price. Again, tandaan, no, baka tanongin lang sa multiple choice. The share certificates or the shares are only issued to subscribers only upon the full payment, okay, of the subscription price. Full payment ang pinag-uusapan natin dito. Okay, meaning may cash outflow. Why? Because the corporation code class prohibits the issuance of shares in exchange for what? For promissory notes or future services. Okay? So, yun. Bago i-issue yun, the corporation must receive first the full consideration before shares are issued. Okay? Next, we have here the cash subscription. So, under this related transaction, this is the entry, no? You have your cash and share capital. Ano yan? Cash subscription naman kasi ito. Okay? Kanina, sinubscribe. But this one, this is cash subscription. Okay? So, anong pag-uusapan? Wala naman. Okay? Dito lang, siyempre, since this is a cash subscription, the share capital and the unissued share capital is directly credited for your cash subscriptions. Okay? So, schedule of share capital. So, the subscription receivable is presented as a deduction. And again, most companies uses the memorandum method class. No? So, ibig sabihin, sa mga succeeding illustrations or problem related to this, since most companies use the memorandum method, so this will be the method that we will be using in the subsequent problems. Okay? So let's proceed. So kanina pinag-usapan natin din yung share capital, no? Yung share capital. And there are two classes of share capital. Okay, share capital, there are two classes. One is syempre you have your ordinary share capital and the preference share capital. Okay? So, to discuss this, ordinary shares, this represents the residual corporate interest that bears the ultimate risk of loss and receives the benefits of success. Okay? Itong mga ito, these ordinary shareholders are guaranteed, no? Are guaranteed neither dividends nor assets upon dissolution of the corporation, but they generally what? Control the management of the corporation and tend to profit the most if the corporation is successful. So these ordinary shareholders are guaranteed neither dividends nor assets upon the dissolution of the entity. But they have what? The general control. They generally control the management of the corporation and tend to profit the most if the corporation is successful. Okay? So these ordinary shareholders generally enjoy the following four basic rights. Okay? Ano yung mga four basic rights na yan? Right to attend and vote in the shareholders meeting. Ano pa? We have the so-called preemptive right, no? Or stock right. Ano yan? Right to purchase additional shares. That's number 2. Number 3, right to share in the corporate profits or the dividends. And rights to share in the net asset of the corporation upon liquidation. Okay? Yan yun. So, the next one is the preference. These preference shares or the preferred stocks, these are the shares that give the holders their certain preferences over other shareholders. Ano yung mga preferences na yun? These preferences may include priority claims over what? Dividends. Ano pa? Net assets of the corporation in the event of liquidation. Diba? Yun yun. Yun yung mga preferences nila. So, one is the dividends. Priority claims sila over dividends and net assets of the corporation in the event of liquidation. Okay? So, dagdag ko na to para ma-discuss. Kasi yung mga susunod, ginagamit na natin itong mga terms na ito. We have the share premium here. And this arises from various sources. Ang common dyan, excess subscription price over the par value or the stated value. Ano pa? Excess of the issuance price over cost of treasury shares issued. Tsaka yung sa distribution ng small stock dividends. Yan yung common. Kung bakit lumalabas ang share premium. One is excess of subscription price over par value or stated value. Then we have the excess of the issuance price over the treasury shares issued, and distribution of small stock dividends. So, hindi ko lang kasi makita yung scan copy ng ano nito, ng concept map. Yun yung binabanggit ngayon. Okay, so let's go back to our illustration here. No? So here, gusto lang na maipakita na yun na, lumalabas na si share premium. No? So this is the transaction here and compute for the and prepare the scheduled total contributed capital. So if you would notice, let's proceed with the answer here or the journal entries. The share capital and the subscribed share capital are credited at their corresponding par value, okay, regardless of the subscription price. No? Regardless of the subscription price, this share capital and subscribed share capital are recorded at par value. And share premium is credited at the subscription date, no? Even for subscriptions that are not yet paid. Okay, even for subscriptions that are not yet paid, ginagamit natin si share premium, no? So let's proceed with the computation of the total contributed capital. So this includes your share capital, subscribe, minus the subscription receivable, and your share premium, that is your total contributed capital. So the total contributed capital, okay, you have your share capital, subscribe share capital, subscription receivable, and the share premium. This is 220,000 coming from here, 100 and 120. Okay, so let's proceed with the so-called legal capital. No? So legal capital, by definition, this is the portion of the contributed capital. The portion of the contributed capital that cannot be distributed to owners during the lifetime of the corporation. Okay? So this legal capital is a portion of the contributed capital that cannot be distributed to the owners during the lifetime of the corporation, unless the corporation is dissolved and all its liabilities are settled first, no? So this legal capital class is based on the so-called concept of the trust fund doctrine. Anong sinasabi doon? Which states that the share capital of a corporation is a trust fund. Bakit? For the protection of the creditors. No? So legal capital, again, this is based on the concept of your trust fund doctrine that states that the share capital of a corporation is a trust fund. Okay? Meaning that is held for the protection of its creditors. Okay? Sir, so legal capital is computed, no? Based on what? Is computed as follows. Halimbawa, for par value, no? For par value shares, dalawa kasi yan eh, par value at saka no par value shares. Okay? Ano nga ba ito? Pag sinabi mong par value share, a par value share is, this is the one with a peso value, no? Fixed in the articles of incorporation. The purpose of which is to fix the amount of the issuance price. Yun. Okay? Meaning, a par value share cannot be issued below its par value. Okay? So, the par value appears saan? Dun sa certificate, dun sa share certificate issued. So kung ang par value share is the one with the peso value fixed in the articles of incorporation, pag sinabi natin no par value share, this is the one without a peso value fixed in the articles of incorporation. However, pag sinabi natin no par value share, meron naman siyang tinatawag na stated value. No? That stated value na tinatawag din naman na issue value. However, this is also which is also indicated in the articles of incorporation, but not in the share certificate issued. So itong par value shares na ito, yung peso value fix na yun, okay, uh, yung peso value na fix ay inilalagay sa articles of incorporation, ganon din nilalagay yan sa share certificate. Makikita mo yun sa stock certificate. Eh yung no par value, wala siyang par value pero meron siyang stated value. At yung stated value na yon, makikita mo yun dun sa articles of incorporation. Pero hindi mo makikita yan sa stock certificate issue. Okay? So, paano mo sila madidistinguish? Yun, tingnan mo yung stock certificate. Okay? Yun kasi ang kanilang difference. No? Makikita mo sa stock certificate ang par value shares. Pero sa no par, hindi mo makikita doon ang stated value. Okay? Ano ba yung consideration dito? So, ang consideration dito sa corporation code natin, no? So, no par value shares should be issued for a consideration less than, ewan ko na bago na, no? 5 pesos pa rin naman yan. 5 pesos per share. And the excess of the subscription price over the stated value is credited to share premium. Okay, so let's now go to the computation of your legal capital. So sa legal capital, kapag par value shares, ang legal capital mo is the aggregate par value of shares issued and subscribed. Okay, kapag par value shares, your legal capital is what? That is the aggregate par value of the shares issued and subscribed. Okay? Pag no par value shares naman, the legal capital is the total consideration received, no? Or receivable from shares issued and subscribed, no? So total consideration naman, ano yun? That represents the subscription price inclusive of the amount in excess of stated value. Ibig sabihin, kasama si share premium. Okay? Again, par value, legal capital of par value includes the aggregate par value of the shares issued and subscribed, while under no par value shares, your legal capital is the total consideration received or receivable from shares issued or subscribed. And the total consideration refers to the subscription price inclusive of amount in excess of the stated value, and that is your share premium. Okay? So that is your legal capital. Okay? So ano lang ang tatandaan? In the case of no par value shares, legal capital includes the share premium of ordinary shares. Tandaan mo yan, ha? The preference shares can only be issued at a par value shares. The share premium of preference shares is not included. Okay? Yun yan. Ano pa? So, let's deal with this share issuance cost, no? Itong share issuance cost class, Ito yung mga expenditures. Ano ba yung mga common dito? Ang common dito, class, yung mga regulatory fees, legal and accounting, ano pa? Professional fees, commissions, yung mga common na nakikita natin sa problem, printing cost of certificate, ano pa? Underwriter, no? Underwriter fees, yan. Yung isa, yung documentary stamp tax, no? Yan yung mga common. And other transaction taxes. So, lahat ng mga yun, class, na nabanggit ko, ang tawag doon ay share issuance cost. Okay? And that share issuance cost, these are what? Deducted. Deducted saan? From any resulting share premium from the issuance. Oo. So again, these expenditures, the share issuance cost is or are deducted from any resulting share premium from the issuance. Eh, sir, paano if the share premium is insufficient? The excess is charged to your retained earnings. Diba, ganun naman. Pag insufficient na ang share capital, ang share premium, that's the time that the excess should be charged to your, yes, retained earnings. So these are your given illustration for those concepts. Okay? So, let's proceed. Ano pa yung mga unusual dito? Ito. Discount on share capital. Okay. Yung discount on share capital, this is a receivable from what? The shareholder concerned. Okay? But that should be presented in financial statements as a contra equity account. Meron kasing rule, ang sabi, yung issuing shares below par or stated value that is prohibited on the original issuance. No? On the original issuance. Okay? So, yan yung concept ng discount on share capital. Ano pa? Wala na. Okay? Eh, bakit dito, sir? Discount on share capital din. Sige. Ito, class, this is related to the shares issued for non-cash consideration. Okay? With fair value that is below the stated value. That is below the stated value. Okay? That is below par, no? Or stated value. Okay? Ang tawag dito, class, ang common term dyan, that is what you call watered stocks. Di ba? Yan yan. Next, we have the accounting for treasury shares. Okay, let's go to accounting for treasury shares. Yan. Pag sinabi natin treasury shares, these are what? These are the entity's own shares, no? That were previously issued but are subsequently reacquired pero hindi ni-retire. Okay? Okay. So tatandaan mo yan, hindi siya ni-retire. Okay? So minsan kasi tinatanong yan sa theory, di ba? What is a treasury shares? No? So lagi ang simula nun class ay ng statement na yon, laging equities own share, entities own shares. Oo. Pero nagkakatalo yan sa dulo. Tatandaan mo doon, most common in the multiple choice, no? Tatandaan mo, these are the shares that were previously issued, tapos subsequently acquired, pero class hindi siya ni-retire. Okay? Sabi kasi ni Corporation Code class, pwede daw naman, an entity may reacquire the previously issued shares. Okay? Nga lang may condition doon. Ang condition doon, kailangan si kumpanya or si corporation, meron siyang sufficient unrestricted retained earnings. Pwedeng mag-reacquire, provided. Okay, provided na yun na nga, na dapat meron siyang sufficient unrestricted retained earnings. Okay? So, ang treasury shares transactions, merong iba't ibang scenarios to be considered, no? Let's go here. Siguro isa-isahin natin. The treasury shares class are accounted, no? Are accounted using the cost method, no? So under this method, the reacquisition and subsequent reissuance of the treasury shares are recorded at cost, no? And the treasury shares again are presented as deduction in the stockholders' equity, and this is considered as a contra equity account. Okay? So, if you go over with this problem, okay, isa-isahin natin ang konsepto na dapat natin makuha dito. So again, this is treasury shares which uses the cost method of accounting. No? So, in item A, ano ang dapat mong pag-aralan dito? Ito kasi at cost na yan. Ito class. Kapag, di ba ang sabi natin, kailangan meron siyang sufficient na unrestricted retained earnings. Ibig sabihin class, ito class minsan kasi hindi na ito napapansin. No? Kapag may treasury shares class, merong automatic appropriation dyan ng retained earnings. Okay? In accordance with the corporation code. Okay? So ito, unrestricted appropriated. Okay? So this is on September 1, on July 1, 20x1, no? ABC issues 1,000 shares at 90. No? So the entry is debit cash. The acquisition nga pala ito. So this is the corresponding entry. You have your treasury shares, cash, and the retained earnings unrestricted and retained earnings appropriated. Okay? So case 1, sabi niya, reissuance to. Ito yung acquisition. Ito yung ngayon reissuance. So ito, reissuance at what? At cost. No? Then case 2, reissuance at above cost. Yan yun. Then, case 3, this is reissuance at below cost. Okay? So, yun. Isa-isahin natin. So, ito at cost lang naman. Walang problema dyan. Ibig sabihin, ang pag-usapan na lang natin ito. When the treasury shares are reissued, syempre, the related appropriated return earnings are reported back to unrestricted retained earnings. Okay? So, at cost yan. Kapag naman ang treasury shares ay na-reissue at more than the reacquisition cost, the excess of the reissuance price over the cost is credited to share premium treasury shares. Okay? And these form parts of the total share premium. Again, when the treasury shares are reissued at more than the cost or the acquisition cost, the excess of the reissuance price over the cost is credited to share premium treasury shares. And this will form part of the entity's total share premium. So yan yun. So let's now go to the third case. This is the reissuance at below cost. No? When the treasury shares are subsequently reissued, when the treasury shares are subsequently reissued at below the reacquisition cost, the excess of the cost over the reissuance price is debited to the following order of priority. Number one, any balance in the share premium of the treasury shares. Di ba meron ka ditong share premium treasury shares? So the balance class, okay, any balance in the share premium treasury shares, ito yung binabawas natin. The excess of cost over the reissuance price is debited to the following. Okay? Yung share premium on treasury shares, yan yung mauna. Kapag hindi pa yan sufficient, that's the time that the excess should be debited to retained earnings. Okay? So, yun. So, anong effect? Ang effect class ng reissuance ng treasury shares is the acquisition, the effect of the reacquisition of the treasury shares is a decrease ng total stockholders equity. Yan yun. Kapag merong reacquisition. Kapag naman merong reissuance, tulad dito, okay, reissuance of treasury shares, this is an increase in the total stockholders equity that is equal to what? Equal to your reissuance price. Okay? Yan. Okay. So this is yung sinasabing effect. So what are the effects? July 1, 20x1. Bakit naging July to? September 1. Ano yan? It should be September 1, 20x1. Case 3. Use case 3 daw. Ito yung July 1. Yan. That is a decrease and the reissuance is an increase equal to the reissuance price. So, again, if you would notice that the reacquisition decreased the total stockholders' equity by the amount of the reacquisition cost. By the amount of the reacquisition cost. While the increase is equal to the reissuance price. Next, let's go to retirement of shares. Dito sa retirement ng shares class, sino ba ito? Pag sinabi mong retired, these are the shares, okay, that have been reacquired and canceled. Ano ba ang pagkakaiba niyan sa treasury shares? Di ba yung sa treasury shares, hindi pa yan na-retire? Okay. So, unlike in the treasury shares class, which can be subsequently reissued. Ang retired shares class, hindi na yan. Bawal na yan. Retired shares cannot be reissued. Okay? So, in this given illustration, kung mapapansin mo, retirement cost ang ginamit na term, no? Less than the original price, tapos retirement of cost is more than the original price. Pag-usapan natin to. Kapag class yung shares ay ni-retire, okay, the total par value and the related share premium of the retired shares are removed, no, in the books of accounts kapag ni-retire. So tatanggalin mo yung total par when shares are retired, no, the total par value and the related share premium of the retired shares are removed from the books of accounts. Tapos any difference between the total amount removed and the retirement cost i-account mo based on this consideration. If the par value and the related share premium of the retired shares mas mataas, exceed the retirement cost, the difference is credited to share premium retirement. Okay? If, again, the par value and the related share premium of the retired shares exceed the retirement cost, the difference is credited to share premium retirement. While if the par value and the related share premium of the retired shares are less than the retirement cost, no, the difference is debited again to the order of priority. Ano yun? Unahin mo si share premium ng treasury shares. Pagkatapos, sunod mo si retained earnings. Okay? Again, kailan to ginagawa? If the par value and the related share premium of the retired shares are less than the retirement cost. Okay? The difference is debited to the following order of priority. You have your share premium, treasury shares, and the retained earnings. If these share premiums are insufficient. Okay? So that is the order of priority. So let's move to this delinquent subscriptions. Okay? Paliwanag ko na lang klase yung concept ng delinquent subscriptions. Yung delinquent subscription, under the corporation code kasi, kapag yung subscription ay hindi pa bayad, no? Diba, pag sinabi natin subscription, this is the contract between the investor and the issuer na nangangako siya, nabibilhin niya yung certain amount of shares, no? Certain portion of the shares, no? Of the total authorized capital. So, paano pag hindi pa binabayaran? If that subscription price remains unpaid, no? Kailan? Siyempre, yung due date na sinet ng BOD, no? Ng Board of Directors. Okay? Kailan mo sasabihin, sir, na delinquent na ang account? Okay. Yung subscriber clause ay madedeclare yan na delinquent after 30 days but not exceeding 60 days from the date the shares are declared delinquent. No? The delinquent shares are sold at a public auction at saan? Doon sa highest bidder. Okay? So, ulitin natin. Siyempre, delinquent ka kapag hindi ka nagbayad. Ano bang past due? Past due. So, past due ka o delinquente ka na kapag hindi ka nagbayad, kapag yan ay hindi ka nakapagbayad sa due date na sinet ng BOD sa board of directors. So delinquent ka na 'yon. So after 30 days but not exceeding 60 days, okay, from the date of the shares are declared delinquent, yung shares na yan ay ibebenta at a public auction to the highest bidder. Sino si highest bidder? The highest bidder is the person who is willing to pay the offer price for the smallest number of shares. Again, highest bidder is the person who is willing to pay the offer price for the smallest number of shares. Ang offer price class, tatlo kasi ang components ng offer price. Ang offer price includes the unpaid balance, no? Unpaid balance, parang ito. Yan yung unpaid balance on the subscription. Ano pa? Yung interest accrued on the subscription and the expenses in the public auction such as advertising and other selling costs. Ito yun. Isingilin mo kasi yan. Saan? Sa mananalo sa building. Okay? And your interest accrued on the subscription. So yan ang offer price. Ang offer price tatlo. The unpaid balance of the subscription, the interest accrued on the subscription, and the expenses in public auction. Okay? That is your offer price. Yan. So, that is the concept related to this delinquent subscriptions. Okay, please go over with this illustration kasi lahat ng sinabi ko nandito. Yan si offer price na. And the offer price tatlo, that is your unpaid balance, the interest that accrue, no? And the public auction, no? Sa'yo pala yan. Okay, that is your expenses in public auction, such as your advertising and selling cost. Yan, nandito yan. Comprising of unpaid balance, interest, and the selling cost, the public auction expenses. Okay? Okay, so let's proceed with the sale of different classes of share capital. Okay? Kailan nangyayari yan? Siyempre, when the entity issues more than one class of share capital for a lump sum price. For a lump sum price na ginagamit sa board exam minsan, basket sale. No? Basket sale. Okay? Paano ngayon to ina-atake? So the issuance is accounted for these two methods, either of the following. So in one of the following methods, we have the proportional method and the incremental method. Again, sale of different classes of share capital when the entity issued more than one class of share capital for a lump sum price or what you call basket sale. So the issuance is accounted for in one of the following methods. We have the proportional and the incremental method. Under the proportional method, if the fair values of all classes of shares capital issued are determinable, the lump sum price is allocated to classes of share capital issued based on their relative fair values. So madali lang naman. So that basket price or the lump sum price that is allocated to the classes of share capital issued based on their relative fair values, just like this one. Okay, these are allocated, the basket price is allocated, lump sum price is allocated based on their proportional, no? Relative fair values. While under the incremental method, ginagamit ito if one class of shares has a determinable fair value, okay, such class is assigned its fair value and the excess of lump sum price is assigned to other classes of shares that does not have the determinable fair value. So madali lang naman siyang tandaan. So this proportional method is used if the fair values of the classes of shares are determinable. Incremental value kapag hindi lahat, no, mayroong relative fair values, that's the time that you will use the incremental method. Okay, so this illustration represents the proportional method and this illustration represents your incremental method. Under the incremental method, what you need to do first is to determine, no? Siyempre, yung merong fair value. Pag na-assign mo na yon, the excess of the lump sum price, in excess of the assigned, no? In excess of the share with the assigned fair value, yung sobra doon, that is now related to the shares that does not have the determinable fair value. Okay, and these are the illustration related to this. Okay. So let's now go to your callable preference shares. Okay? Callable. Diba, meron tayong tinatawag na redeemable dati. Oh, sabi natin class, redeemable kasi, redeemable preference shares, equity in redeemable preference shares are considered as debt securities. Kaya ang nandito class, callable lang. Yan. Kasi nasa equity tayo eh. So siguro let's determine the difference between the redeemable and callable. Pag sinabi kasi natin class na redeemable preference shares, no? Yung redeemable preference shares na yan, these are preferred stocks which the holder has the right to redeem at a set date. Okay, so sino ang merong right? Yung holder, no? Redeemable preference shares are preferred stocks which the holder has the right to redeem at a set date. Oo. Ano naman ang callable? Kung holder yung redeemable, syempre yung kabila issuer. Pag sinabi mong callable, these are callable preference shares. These are preferred stocks which the issuer has the right to call at a set date. That is one of the difference. Okay? So these redeemable preference shares, yung redeemable, are classified as financial liability. Bakit? Kasi class, yung holder, no? When the holder exercise its right to redeem, walang magagawa si issuer. The issuer is mandatorily obligated to pay for the redemption funds. Again, the redeemable preference shares are classified as financial liability because when the holder exercise its right, no, to redeem, so si issuer, wala. Mandatory yan, nabayaran niya yung redemption price. Dito naman sa kabila, yung callable, ang may option kasi dito, yung mayroong right to call, si issuer. Oo. Kaya siya classified na equity. Because the right to call is at the discretion of the issuer. Okay? Ibig sabihin, wala siyang obligation to pay unless it chooses to call on the shares. Oo. So, yan yung pagkakaiba ng redeemable at saka ng callable preference shares. So, let's now deal with the accounting for this callable preference shares, no? So, using this illustration, ang pwede lang natin ipaliwanag dyan, the share capital, no? The share capital and the share premium arising from the original reissuance, ano mangyari dyan? Are derecognized, okay? When the shares are called for redemption, okay? If the redemption price, ito yung redemption price, exceeds the original issuance price, the excess is debited to retained earnings. So, ito kasi dito siya nag-call eh. Ito yan, no? Called in. So, here, if, again, no? The share capital and the premium, no? Share premium arising from the original issuance are recognized when the shares are called in for redemption. Okay? And if the redemption price exceeds the original issue price, the excess is debited to retained earnings. Okay? Sa kabila naman, if the redemption price is less than the original issuance price, the difference is credited to share premium. Okay? So that is now your accounting for callable shares, preferences. Next, let's go to accounting for stock rights. Oh, yan. Ito, madali na to kasi madalas natin itong ginagawa. Okay? Pero kanino ba ini-issue yan? The stock rights class are issued to existing ordinary shareholders, in relation to what? To their so-called preemptive right. Okay? So the stock rights enable existing shareholders to what? To protect the current ownership interest by acquiring new shares, no? Issued by the corporation. Why? Because such shares are offered to new investors. So this stock rights, normally, no? This enables the existing shareholders to purchase new shares at a price that is lower than the market value of the shares. Okay? So, yung stock rights na yan, anong ebidensya niyan? May dokumento yan. Ang dokumento ng stock rights, kung yung time deposit, di ba? Merong certificate yan of time deposit. Ano pa kaya ito? This stock rights, may ebidensya. May certificate din yan. At ang tawag sa certificate na yan yung share warrants or the stock warrants. No? So, the stock rights issued are evidenced by share warrants. No? So, share warrants are certificates that entitle the holder to acquire shares, siyempre, at a certain price. That price is lower than the market value of the shares. And siyempre, meron niyang stated period hanggang kung kailan pwedeng gamitin. Okay? So, let's proceed with the accounting for stock rights. So, stock rights are recorded through what? Through memorandum entry. Okay? Why? Because stock rights laws are issued to existing shareholders without consideration. Kaya memorandum entry lang. So the stock rights again are recorded through memo entry only because stock rights are issued to existing shareholders without consideration. Okay? Kailan magkakaroon ng NP yan? Magkakaroon ng NP yan when the rights are exercised. O kaya, ni-recall. Okay? Ganun lang naman. So, if the stock rights are subsequently recalled, any consideration paid is debited to share premium. Ayan, ni-recall. Yan. So, pag ni-recall yan, any consideration paid is debited to share premium. Okay? So, paano sir kapag if the stock rights expire pero hindi naman kinancel? Pag ganun, wala. No entry is made if the stock rights expire but not cancelled. Okay? So, ito yun. Yung mga pinagsasabi ko dyan. Okay? Ano pa? Wala na. Okay? So, let's go to convertible preference shares. Okay? Itong convertible preference shares na to class. Okay, when preference shares are convertible to ordinary shares or issued, the entity has issued only one type of financial instrument, and that is an equity instrument, but of a different class. Diba? Convertible nga preference shares. So, again, when preference shares convertible to ordinary shares, no? The entity has issued only one type of financial instrument or equity instrument, but of different classes. Okay? So, mas maganda yan kapag mayroon problem. Ito, dito natin siya ipagawa. So, normally class, no separate accounting is required upon issuance, no? But the principal instrument, which is your preference share, and the conversion option are presented in the stockholders' equity. And the conversion and the equity conversion option is embedded, it's an embedded derivative that requires no separate recognition. However, on conversion date, a reclassification entry is made from preference share capital to ordinary share capital. Okay? Ano pa? So ito mga convertible shares na ito. Let's focus on okay. So let's proceed with preference shares with detachable warrants. So plus yung preference shares with detachable warrants, similar with the issuance of preference shares convertible to ordinary shares, no? When preference shares are issued with detachable warrants, the entity has issued only one type of financial instrument or equity instrument, but of different class. However, class, in the case of detachable warrant, no, in this case, class, no, the detachable warrant is not an embedded in derivative, but a standalone instrument that should be accounted for separately. Okay, so let's have this example. Ayan. So here, kung mapapansin mo class, meron kasi siyang fair values. So kapag merong fair values, the issue price should be allocated to the preference shares and detachable warrants based on their relative fair values. Madali ito. Pag wala class, hindi present yung dalawa, when when based on their relative fair values on issuance date. I would like to emphasize the issuance date now. When both the preference shares and the warrants do not have available fair values, the allocation of the issue price is based on what you call intrinsic value of the warrants. And that intrinsic value is the difference between the fair value of the ordinary shares and the subscription price. The warrants are assigned their intrinsic value, and any excess of the issuance price is allocated to preference shares. Okay? So dito ko na sa madali. Kasi merong given relative fair values. So the issue price is to be allocated to the preference shares and detachable warrants based on their relative fair values. However, class, dito tayo sa intrinsic value. When both preference shares and the warrants do not have available fair values, the allocation of the issue price is based on the intrinsic value of the warrants. Okay? And the intrinsic value of the warrants is the difference between the fair value of the ordinary shares and the subscription price. Okay, so that is the intrinsic value of the warrants. Okay, so the warrants are assigned their intrinsic value, and any excess of the issue price is allocated to preference shares. Okay, so this is the number of ordinary shares that can be purchased under the warrants. This is now the assigned value of the warrants. And the excess is now allocated to the preference shares. Okay? Yan po. So, next, we have the non-cash considerations. Ito na yung sa, yung mga donation, no? Yan. So, yung donated capital class, donated capital arises from gifts received by the corporation from non-reciprocal transaction. Kasi donated nga eh. So one way lang, no? Donated capital may arise from donation from shareholders, donations from government, or other sources. So, tatlo. So, donation from shareholders, donation from government, o kaya naman donation from other sources. Kapag class ang donation galing sa shareholder, ike-credit yan sa share premium. Pag ang donation galing sa shareholders, ike-credit yan sa share premium. Kapag ang donation galing sa gobyerno, no? These are recognized as government grants. Oo. Kapag naman ang donation galing sa other sources, okay? Ito ay i-recognize na income when the conditions attached to the donation are fulfilled, no? Or reasonably fulfilled. Okay? The donation becomes receivable and the criteria for the asset recognition are met. Okay. Ang dinodonate class, pwedeng cash, pwedeng non-cash, o kaya equities own shares. Diba? Yun yun. Kapag cash yan class, no? You should recognize that at the amount of cash received or receivable. Kapag non-cash naman, fair value of the non-cash asset. Pag entities own share naman, that is initially recorded as a memorandum entry. Kapag ang dinonate ay entities own shares. Okay? Yan yung concept naman on the cash and non-cash consideration. Kapag cash, the amount of cash received. Kapag naman ay non-cash o non-cash assets, recognized at the fair value of the non-cash assets. Kapag naman ay equities own shares, yan ay memorandum entry lang. Okay? So the donated capital is recognized only when the donated shares are subsequently reissued. Ito yan, subsequently reissued. Yan yan. Yan yung mga pinag-usapan natin. Cash, non-cash, equities own shares, and that equities own shares were subsequently reissued. Okay? Next, assessment on shareholders. No? So, the shareholders of a financially troubled corporation may vote to provide additional capital based on respective shareholdings. The assessment or the additional capital provided is credited to share premium. Yun lang naman ang sa assessment of shareholders. The shareholders of a financially troubled corporation may vote to provide additional capital based on respective shareholdings, and the assessment of additional capital provided is credited to share premium. Okay, so there are notes related to this. Nandito siya. Ito yan. So, yung pinag-usapan natin, lahat ng concept, nandito siya. Okay? Hanggang dito. Ito. Ito, hanggang item 19.